No, the FBI, yeah, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
They would never admit this, but if this turned out to be true, I don't think I'd be all that surprised. Pam's got a few things going on right now with her name being floated about. So here's what's being said. Attorney General Pam Bondi is said to be acting as a figurehead, and the Department of Justice is being run from the West Wing. All according to the New York Times. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller is alleged to be setting the agenda for the department from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in conjunction with President Donald Trump. Okay, so whether she's a figurehead, I can't say. Loyalist, definitely, 100%. Which, because that's the case, because everyone in the administration was set there to be a yes man to Donald Trump, none of them are actually put there because they're supposed to be in charge of the department. They're not going to go against the will of what Donald Trump wants to have done. So Donald Trump could funnel his message through Stephen Miller, Chief of Staff, and then he could just tell them what to do. So inevitably, this kind of is correct. But not just for her. For all of them. Remember, and this is being alleged, that there were reportedly tensions early on in Bondi's tenure when Miller was vocal in his opposition to the nomination of Chad Chronister, a Florida County Sheriff.
Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister is staying put. Good evening, I'm Paul Lucero. Thanks for joining us for News Channel 8 on the CW Tampa Bay. Chronister has officially declined the nomination to lead the Drug Enforcement Administration. News Channel 8's Marilyn Parker joins us live from the sheriff's office. In Maryland, the move comes 2 days after he was nominated by President-elect Donald Trump.
That's right, and we tried to get an interview with the sheriff tonight, but the department said that he was unavailable. In a statement that he put online, he said that the gravity of this position set in over the last few days, and he feels there's still a lot more work to be done right here in Hillsborough County. Sheriff Chad Chronister says to have been nominated by President-elect Donald Trump to serve as administrator of the DEA is an honor of a lifetime. But he withdrew himself from consideration Tuesday night, saying there's more work to be done in Hillsborough County.
This was all the way back in 2024. But later on, Chronister withdrew his name from consideration after criticism from conservative activists that he had arrested a pastor who had violated COVID-19 lockdown regulations and held a church service. This is all being reported according to the Times. Trump apparently got upset at the matter and was asking why she would have recommended him. Now, you followed that all up with the fact that when she made a whole spectacle stating that we're going to release everything, we're going to release the Epstein files, and they chose some influencers to go to the White House, and they were holding those binders, those ridiculous binders that held nothing but information that was already readily available to the public as is.
I saw y'all on the internet coming for Kash Patel saying he's day 5 and we haven't gotten the Epstein files. Well, I'm here outside the West Wing and look at what we got today. The Epstein files, baby. Let's make America safe again.
You serious? And then she opened the Epstein files to only reveal nothing. Don't forget, remember this. In the meantime, though, there's been a seeming call for the actual Epstein files to be released because people are now wondering, what are you sitting on? Why are you sitting on this for so long after you made such a big stink that you were going to have it released? And up to this day, there hasn't been a single thing. And I think what they're doing is just kind of waiting and hoping that people forget about it. So here's a clip of James Comer addressing that very thing. It's a little bit lengthy, but I'll let the whole thing play out about what he thinks is actually going to happen with the Epstein files.
What's next? I mean, we did a little bit of a preview on the Epstein files. Obviously, that's like finding a unicorn in Washington, D.C. You have come on and talked about that on this program, just for the sake of transparency, which is very big for you. And so, in closing, any motion on that, any movement on that? We hear that there's a timeline now.
I hope James has the Epstein files, because I don't think the Department of Justice has them, or at least the Attorney General does not have them, or she would have turned them over. The President ordered them released. The Attorney General ordered them released. We all know they have not been released. And one of my biggest fears that I had, and I expressed this with Kash Patel and a lot of people Stephen Miller and a lot of people going into the new administration. I'm like, I hope they're not shredding documents right now. This was a few weeks before the transition. I said, I hope they're not shredding documents, but you all need to go on that first day and try to get all this stuff released, because my fear is from what I've dealt with in investigations and in communication with this deep state apparatus, is they're probably in there shredding documents as we speak. So hopefully someone has a copy of that, and I hope we find out, because our task force has done everything, led by Anna Paulina Luna. You had her on your show many times. I mean, she's relentless. She's persistent. She's pretty frustrated right now that these files haven't been released, even though the president and the attorney general have ordered them released. But it's like I told Anna the same thing I told Patel and everybody else. I'm like, you assume that somebody in the deep state said, okay, we'll just put these in a file back here, this incriminating evidence on everybody, and maybe the next administration can do whatever they want to do with it. That's unfortunately the way it's supposed to work, but it hasn't worked with this deep state.
So they're just going to let the incriminating evidence sit there smoldering that could put them all in prison.
Yeah,
right?
No, I wish they should. That's what they're supposed to do. But you and I have dealt with them, Benny. You've covered the deep state as well as anyone. I mean, they cover their tracks, and it's just hard for me to believe they're going to leave incriminating evidence if the government was involved. If the government wasn't involved, I don't think they would have any reason to protect Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton. They're never going to be elected anything again. I don't think they would have any reason to protect Bill Gates or anybody else. The concern I've always had about the Epstein file was the government involved. Did the government know? Was the government using Epstein and the videos to blackmail the most influential people around the world? If that's the case, then they knew there were victims of sex crimes there, and they did nothing. So that's the concern I have. If the government covers this up, I don't believe it's because of any love affair or affection for the Clinton family, just like I never believed they were hiding and covering for the Bidens because they loved Joe Biden. It was because they hated Donald Trump, and they didn't want their agencies to be disrupted. The same thing with the Epstein files. I don't know this, but my concern is that the government may have known a lot more and may have been an active participant, maybe with the intentions of intelligence gathering. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I don't think the American people would be okay if the government knew that crimes against young women were occurring, and yet they did nothing to intervene.
That is possible. It could be the deep state, or, and I'm just spitballing here, could it be possible that maybe they do have the files, and the only reason that she isn't releasing it is because she might have come across a name of a guy who just happened to be friends with Epstein, even to the point where Epstein apparently said that he has every single contact for this man? The guy who might just so happen to be sitting in the Oval Office. We do know the two of them were friends.
And then Trump says something else into Epstein's ear that makes him double over with laughter. But as the president says now, he never liked Epstein.
And then, of course, about Trump in Qatar and his new plane where she was apparently the one that gave the green light. And then, of course, there were talks that she was an agent working as a lobbyist on behalf of Qatar, where she was apparently paid about $115,000 a month. But to be fair, she did say that she lobbied for Qatar while working for Ballard Partners. However, she also said that Ballard Partners, not she personally, received $115,000 per month for the lobby work. So this is how we can end this. Chuck Schumer is apparently calling on Pam Bondi to testify in front of Congress. Why? Well, you know exactly why. It's because that plane and that Qatar deal is not sitting well with anyone.
When Donald Trump says that this plane is free, I just want to know, what do the Qataris think they're getting for this? What's the trade deal they want? What's the weapons deal they want? What's the prosecution that they want released and eased up on? There's nothing that's coming free to the President of the United States at that level that doesn't come with an expectation there's going to be something in return. The hard part is the American people may not see what it was until it's way too late.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Madam President, news of the Qatari government gifting Donald Trump a $400 million private jet to use as Air Force One is so corrupt that even Putin would give a double take. This is not just naked corruption, it is also a grave national security threat. So in light of the deeply troubling news of a possible Qatari-funded Air Force One and the reports that the Attorney General personally signed off on this clearly unethical deal, I am announcing a hold on all DOJ political nominees until we get more answers. Here are some questions that must be answered. First, I call on the DOJ's Foreign Agent Registration Act Unit, or the FARA unit, to do its job and disclose all activities by Qatari foreign agents inside the U.S. that could benefit President Trump or the Trump Organization. Since Attorney General Bondi took charge, the Department of Justice has not been doing its job when it comes to FARA. The FARA unit needs to enforce the law and inform the public of all activities, not just on this luxury plane deal, but all deals involving foreign countries in the Middle East and President Trump, his family, and the Trump Organization. Second, with regard to this $500 million private jet deal, the American people deserve to know the facts. President Trump has told the American people this is, quote, a free jet. Does that mean the Qataris are delivering a ready on day one plane with all the security measures already built in? If so, who installed those security measures? And how do we know they were properly installed? Why would we take the risk of trusting any foreign country to do this sensitive work? If not, what security modifications would be needed to ensure a foreign-sourced Air Force One is safe to use? If this is, as President Trump promised, a free jet, will the Qataris pay for those highly sensitive installations, or will American taxpayers cover the cost? How much will those modifications cost American taxpayers? Hundreds of billions of dollars? Hundreds of millions of dollars? Billions of dollars? How much will they cost? If the American taxpayers are forced to pay for this temporary plane, does it mean the U.S. government will cancel the contract for the future Boeing plane? If so, how much will that cancellation cost? And if not, why are American taxpayers being asked to spend hundreds of millions of dollars or more on a plane that will only be used for a year or two? Additionally, who in the Trump administration was responsible for this crooked deal? What are the parameters of this deal? And which country brought it up first, us or them? What is Qatar being offered in return?
For once, I actually agree with Chuck. If they did actually build this plane, how are you 100% sure that this thing isn't bugged with some type of microphone? Believe me, spyware comes in a lot more different forms that can be readily hidden. Especially if it's a plane that the POTUS is going to be utilizing, he's going to have sensitive information and sensitive conversations that he does not want the world to hear. So how did you not take the proper measures before you determine that you're going to now utilize this plane? You have to strip it down to the bone and then rebuild it. That's the only way that you could verify that this thing was done on the up and up. But let me know what it is that you guys think. Pam Bondi, puppet head or puppet master? Is she the one calling the shots, or is she just taking direction like everyone else? Whatever your thoughts are, leave them in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, and I will see you again on the next one. Be easy, y'all.